Say you're this white dude, right? On the outside, on the outskirts of this, and you're seeing black people make fan edits of like a certain characters, like Black Naruto, for instance. Do you really think they're trying to insert that into like the actual canon? Like they're calling up the creators of Naruto to be like, change this shit. It's not happening. All right, let's check it out. Blackwashing doesn't exist. Why black edits aren't racist, from Veridis Joe. We previously watched this video, Cosplaying While Black, an open problem in the community. It was a very good video. Let's see what's up. There's a dog in this one, which is a good sign.
Cosmo, bro, do you care like at all?
Possible.
I remember a while ago when I was talking to a group of friends, I posted this Black Ryoko edit from the Your Favorites Dark Skin Twitter account. And there was one friend out of the group who took it upon themselves to post an edit of white Garnet and proceeded to say how it works both ways and how this Garnet looks better than this. I ain't capping, this is what he said. Like, he would just be contrarian for no other reason than to start shit. He was capping out of his ass. And obviously he was wrong, but I didn't exactly feel like telling him why.
Standard logic bro behavior. You know, we've seen it a million times before. Just, I don't know, I've never understood it, right? This is not really related to the video that much. But I've never understood the arguing for the sake of argument kind of mindset. But that's just because I'm a different person, you know? Like, I hate confrontation. I do not like conflict. I'm very conflict averse. This probably is as a result of like my childhood or whatever. I'm just not a big fan of getting people mad at me or getting mad at people. I don't like arguing. It's not a big thing I like to do, so I don't do debates. It's why I'm not, like, rambunctious on the timeline, you know what I mean? I just don't like that kind of negative attention. Now, it could be beneficial to my brand, you know, the drama and all of that, but it's just not something I'm super interested in. I've never understood it.
Nigga, I got time today.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
All right, new story time. So the other day I opened Twitter, obviously never a good idea, and I saw a user getting their ass beaten in quote tweets for posting this image and many others liking on their account. And these are obviously bait. Some of you couldn't assume I have common sense and decided to tell me I fell for the bait when responding, when all I did was say ew. No shit, it's bait. They want attention and I decided to make fun of them for Twitter likes. But clearly what they did here was turn loose from the House, the brown-skinned Dominican American, into a flavorless, undercooked, for lack of a better word, lint leech. And not only did they—
I actually haven't seen Owl House. I've seen a little bit of it. I know Merriman and Vaush watched it though. It seems pretty neat.
They did it to prove a point I see so many times that I'm here to dismantle and disprove. In multiple tweets, they expressed how black people aren't oppressed and that racism works both ways. Clearly, from those statements alone, this wasn't made for shits and giggles and to make niggas mad. The nigga in question did this with reasoning behind it. And I want you to take a look at these two edits. Although at their basic objective core, both characters having their race being altered in an edit, they aren't the same. And they ain't comparable for multiple reasons. These images are not the same. And I'm gonna explain why. And you probably guessed, but I'm gonna get into that right now.
It still is so weird. Veridis Joe touched on this in the previous video. In the previous video we watched, the Cosplaying While Black, an open problem in the community, in that like a lot of these characters that people are like getting mad about, like people making, you know, dark skin edits of, they're not even white. They're like Japanese a lot of the time. Now, of course, you could say that, oh, well, some like Japanese people, if they're mixed or whatever, might be white passing or whatever else. There's a bunch of bullshit you could do with that, but they're not white. They're Japanese. They're some flavor of Asian, right? So like you're already starting off on a losing battle. If you were worried about like trying to make darker skinned characters white or like wanting to do that kind of thing, like the characters that you're looking at aren't even white. They just happen to have light skin. So dumb.
Alright, now back to it. I don't know if anyone told you, but this month is the month that the art community calls Blacktober. A lot of you non-social media niggas probably are unaware as to what that is, so allow me. Black artists and editors have started to draw themselves into the things that they love. And by that I mean drawing them as black or their faves as black. A lot of people obviously did not like that. And with
Wait, and how could you— I cannot— oh god. I can't put myself in the mindset of giving a fuck about people doing this in any type of way. I can understand making dark-skinned characters light skin being weird, because in anime specifically, there is not a lot of representation for black and brown characters. There just isn't. There's more nowadays, but more often than not, you're just gonna see light-skinned people. So like, making a dark-skinned character light skin is just kind of weird, because it's like, there are already so many other options of already light-skinned characters out there, the grand majority of them even. That's why it's different. That's why if you make a light-skinned character darker skin, there's no problem there, because there's so many light-skinned characters. It's not like you're diluting the amount of light-skinned characters that are out there by doing that. It's so strange. Maybe I'm just not racist. Maybe that's the problem here, where I can't see the other side of like, oh my god, this light-skinned character, they made him darker skin. Holy shit. Like, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
That came a lot of harassment thrown at said artists and editors. Blacktober is a month-long prompt thing that was created to combat all the hate and malice with fun. And people have a problem with this whole movement because they think it's racist and say it's blackwashing, seeing as people truly believe other people are canonically changing the races of these characters, or at least trying to. In an attempt to try to educate the people who are making these edits, people decided to do the exact opposite to prove a point. But like I said earlier, these two images aren't the same and never will be. Now it's time for me to explain that.
Although I think I'll get a little more comfortable first.
I'm saying I'm going to do the cool green screen thing again because I like doing it and it's cool and it's time effective. Yeah.
First off, one was created positively, as you can see from the quality of the edit, while the other was created in retaliation of the other. Now you might say, why does that even matter? Well, here's a comparison. There's this teeny little organization, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Black Lives Matter. And then there's All Lives Matter. People who say ALM opposed to BLM or supporting a movement that was made in retaliation of a movement made for the support and giving of voices to black people. A movement solely made for us to be treated as equal. Both still movements at their core, but one movement is in retaliation of the other.
Something that always bugs me is, and I'm not sure if I'm asserting it or what, but it feels like any darker skinned people in action-focused animes are always brute force, strong, kind of dumb or absent-minded. Oh yeah, no shit, there's a lot of fucking racism in anime. Imagine my shock. Japan, not really the most socially progressive, as it would turn out. You know, just because they have some, you know, pretty boys in the shows and some femboys doesn't mean that this is like a bastion of social progressivism. No shit. There's a lot of weird racism and a lot of anime out there.
All right, now let's bring it back. I talked about this before conveniently in the video right before this one, but
hey, we watched that one.
Black edits exist primarily because of the lack of representation of black animated characters in animated media. And if you say, we got plenty of representation, Stop the cap. Most of the mainstream anime that are out and talked about right now don't feature accurate black representation or black representation at all. And trust me, we're thankful for what we're getting right now, but that's now. For decades, we were getting this or nothing. But because of this lack of characters in our race, we had to latch on to characters that weren't even representative of our own race. Therefore, over the years, we've made headcanons and AUs of these characters where they are black. Notice I said the headcanon and AU. Contrary to popular belief, we don't actually believe these characters are black. I know Piccolo's a fucking Namekian.
Yeah, like imagine that. Like, I don't know why people could even think that. Like, so say you're this white dude, right? On the outside, on the outskirts of this, and you're seeing black people make fan edits of like a certain characters like Black Naruto, for instance. Do you really think they're trying to insert that into like the actual canon? Like they're calling up the creators of Naruto to be like, change this shit. It's not happening. Like nobody is pushing for Naruto to be canonically and like retroactively black. I'm pretty sure that's not what most people making, you know, dark-skinned fan edits of Naruto are trying to do. Like, why would that be your immediate idea? It's just people who enjoy a media creation who are trying to just make art off of the IP. What's the problem? It's weird too, because like people will gender bend certain characters. People will make like, so let's say Sasuke, people will gender bend him to be a girl and nobody loses their minds. It's the fucking Joker meme. Gender bend a character, nobody cares, but make a light-skinned character brown and everybody loses their mind. It's like, what the fuck? Why do you care? It's just people having fun with a piece of media, giving their take on it, creating art from it. It's chill. What's the problem?
Shit, headcanoning shouldn't even be that much of a problem. I've seen people do a lot more outside of race. Some niggas headcanon characters into completely new, different characters. I'm calling y'all out. Y'all motherfuckers will headcanon a character that's nothing like you and then make that nigga just like you, which changes their character entirely. Don't worry, it's okay though. I just know. Remember that one bigot dickhead cop from Detroit Become Human? Niggas made him the partner of the new Connor and also like a tsundere love interest. This is a bigot. This is a robo-racist who probably is homophobic. What were y'all doing? Anyways, people love calling this blackwashing, but that's not a thing, like, at all. It does not exist. First off, again, this is just an example of someone making something in retaliation of something else. Blackwashing? That doesn't even sound right. It was obviously derived from the term whitewashing, which if you did know is a changing of a character's race from something ethnic and flavorless to white. And that's just not good for nobody. Now,
and by the way, whitewashing doesn't only happen in the specific circumstance. So of course we're talking about, you know, media depictions of characters, but this happens in like incredibly material ways. Like we were talking about this earlier in the stream, the public education system. History has been whitewashed to fuck. Like the history of, you know, the indigenous people in North America when Columbus, you know, happened upon it, that's been whitewashed to hell. The history of slavery in the Jim Crow South, that's been whitewashed to hell. The right wing and conservatives in general, their entire MO, from as long as white people have existed, have been rewriting history, burning books, and trying to change things to suit their narrative for so long. That's literally one of the primary goals of the right wing, is to do that, to continue this fake mythologized version of themselves that isn't actually real, to try to maintain their hegemonic power. So not only does this happen in regards to anime, this happens in other ways as well. And that's not the only example. That's just a very big and very material one, because people are not learning actual history.
Meaning has been updated to accommodate for the coloring of a darker skinned character lighter than what they're supposed to be, which is also not good for nobody. I got a confession, y'all niggas say I never missed any harder than this video. This video is almost 2-3 years old, but if I did miss the point more harder, I wouldn't know what this was. Obviously, you can tell from the thumbnail I was saying that nobody was whitewashing Nessa, which is wrong. That's not right at all. People were drawing her light as fuck for no reason. And I completely missed the point about the erasure of dark skin representation and how that's no good for nobody. Live and learn. Sometimes you have good friends that teach you. Love you, Thuman. Now, some of you probably think you got me in a little gotcha moment. Oh, you know, you call my ass red-handed, caught in 4K. You didn't. Settle down. You're predictable, and I know what you're finna say. Well, white characters are getting recasted as non-white people more and more these days. And you probably call
that is true about Invincible, right? I think
white characters.
I didn't read the comics or whatever for Invincible, but apparently this love interest, spoiler alert, for Invincible is actually a white girl, and a very boring one apparently at that, in the comics. And for the cartoon adaptation for it, now is a black person. Who cares? If you get mad about that, I don't understand what happens in your brain. I just simply do not get it.
Are getting recasted as non-white people more and more these days. And you'd probably call a black person playing a role originally casted as a white person blackwashing, as you would for these edits. What the difference between a black person playing a role originally a white person did and a white person playing a role originally a black person did is reasoning and erasure. No matter how many originally white roles taken by non-black people happen, they're still going to be the dominant party in representation and in real life, like they have been for centuries.
True. It's a saturation thing. So like I was saying before, the reason why making a light-skinned character dark skin for your headcanon, you know, fan art OC, why that's not a problem, making a light-skinned character a dark-skinned character, is because the vast majority of characters in media, specifically anime, but a variety of other ones as well, are all light-skinned. They're all light-skinned. Now, they might not all be white, because a lot of these anime take place in Japan, so they're Japanese people, Asian people, but they're all light-skinned. So if like the majority of depictions of characters in anime were dark skinned, and like there wasn't this history of racism, and white people were not the hegemonic power, then maybe you could get a little bit upset. But right now, that's not the reality we live in. The majority of characters are light skinned. White people are the hegemonic power holders in the world. White supremacy is unfortunately alive and well. And like, I feel like the only way you're getting mad about that as a white person, if either you haven't done enough introspection to figure out that you might have some like racist tendencies. And I mean, you get taught this shit, like it's social. I don't think anybody's born racist. You get taught it. So it's possible to unlearn it. So if you do feel some type of way about it, do some introspection, try to talk to some people, try to figure out why you might feel that way. And then hopefully recognize that it's kind of a weird thing to feel and try to learn about and move off of it. That would be the ideal and optimistic solution. And hopefully, if you don't mean to be racist or overtly so, do some introspection, figure it out. Talk to some black and brown people. You'll be surprised that they're actually also humans.
Take the role from a black person or from another person of color, you are comparatively taking what little representation we have in the first place. And when it comes for reasoning, you have to think, is there a reason why this character is white in the first place? Probably not. They're just white. The story has nothing to do with them being white. But most of the time, black roles are made for black people to tell black stories or to tell stories that black people need to be in. Whenever a black edit is made and posted, in the replies, I see this infamous and not gonna lie, kind of funny picture of a white Black Panther. And this image essentially is the whole, but what if the roles were reversed card? And essentially is a physical representation of niggas missing the point. If you want them reversed so bad, how about you go through 200 years of slavery, decades of segregation, years of systematic oppression, gentrification, and mass incarceration and imprisonment. If not, shut the fuck up talking to me. Otherwise, the roles cannot be reversed. And if your rebuttal is get over slavery, everything's not about race. No, everything is about race, and everything will always be about race. Shut the fuck up talking to me. Thing is, people bring up the counter argument, well, why don't you make your own characters instead of changing the race of existing ones? And to clarify,
people do. The fuck?
Number one, again, we aren't changing the races of these characters. These are headcanons and AUs. And number two, that's valid. I mean, if not for the fact that you can do both of those things at the same time, well, it's not hurting anyone, because these edits hurt literally no one. It isn't like these characters are being officially recast or retconned as black ones. They're just edits, and they're not bad ones either. The counters are usually crude, bad looking, crusty, ugly, and that's because the messages behind these two are very different. One's clearly positive and with love, while the other is within malice, or it comes off as combative and misses the point.
What's really interesting too, so it's not the same, obviously. Like sexuality and, you know, race are not the same. Now, of course, there are queer black people. This exists. These people exist. Clear black and brown. They exist. Crazy, right? Not just white people who are fucking gay. That's crazy. But it's really interesting to me, and this is kind of tangential to what we're talking about, but what I've always found interesting is that it seems like for most of the black characters that exist in media like this, their entire character kind of revolves around the fact that they happen to be black. So like they're not just black and they exist and they do things. There's usually a lot more in there, inlaid in that, and like storytelling, which can be good and positive. Like if you're trying to show people the history and like a story of like what black people go through or like anything related to that, that's good and can be beneficial. But like when I see and think about that and then try to relate it tangentially to queer people, whenever you see like a gay person in media, their entire character becomes the fact that they're gay, not just that they just happen to be, right? And it's the same kind of idea where you're trying to like show people that like these characters, they can be gay. There are certain struggles that you go through as a gay person. Trying to elucidate that and show people who might not be aware of that through media is a pretty good way of educating people, I think. Though of course there are some weird ways you can go about it, but most of the time it can be pretty positive. But like, it would be so cool to me if there was just like a dude in a show and like they do all this normal shit that they're always doing. And then later on it's revealed that they happen to be gay, but like their entire character doesn't revolve around it. It's just like, oh, this character's gay. That's really cool. And what's cool about that is gay people are normal people too. Not everybody is like fucking doing all this kind of shit and acting gay, like in the stereotypical way people understand, you know, flamboyant gay people to act. I am pansexual. I am gay, technically, right? And I don't act like that. I am just a person. I act the way that I act because I am me. Right? Yeah, and even if they do, who cares? Yeah, exactly. So it would be so cool. And I would imagine, obviously I can't speak to the race side of things insofar as like what black people experience with representation in media, but I imagine that it would probably be cool for there to be black and brown characters who just happen to be black or brown, and their entire story doesn't revolve around that. They just happen to be there because they're people too. They exist. Black characters can exist. Not a big deal. I think Stormfront and the Boys is the closest to a white-specific superhero. Well, yeah, I guess the whole point of that character is that she is white. That does make sense because she's, spoiler alert, a white supremacist, Nazi. That does make sense. Like that is like an overt description of a specific kind of white person. It's just that white people are considered the default, so they're just going to be cast as the default.
I don't know if you can see the correlation, but all of this is connected. I'm not just putting these things together that don't make sense to make it make sense. These are all correlated. This is just another clear as day example of why representation matters. If people saw more brown or dark skin representation on the TV, you see it more in people's art because it'd be normalized. A lot of y'all forget this stuff is taught, and people keep the same beliefs not because they're right, but because the same beliefs are being taught to kids. I mean, it's just unfortunate that this is an issue that not a lot of people know or care about.
Unfortunately, not every anime wants to be Fire Force or cares about black people, but like it or not, a lot of black people consume anime. And black people, just as other minority groups, consume media just as much as white people. Dark-skinned niggas look at the same shit light-skinned niggas do. So why exactly aren't they in the shit? I know to a lot of people representation isn't really a big issue because they don't care, but it is.
With the lack of it, people take it into their own hands by making their own in different ways.
Just I'll say, if
my take has always been representation absolutely matters. It is just not a substantial replacement for actual systemic change to address the issues of the people being represented in media. So for instance, I put out a tweet a while ago about this trans actress or model. Let me see. And the tweet read, representation is good actually, it just isn't a suitable replacement for material change. So this is the first ever trans Victoria's Secret model. I continue, the reason people sour on identity politics is because liberals, most often, use it to sidestep actual systemic change that materially benefit people's lives. Obama being the first black president is good, it just doesn't solve racism. A trans model being hired for marketing is good, just doesn't solve transphobia. It's true. It's very good. Representation is a good thing. And that's kind of targeted to people on the left, because there's a lot of people on the left that are really upset with the, you know, cynical weaponization of identity politics, but it's still important. So for instance, Kamala Harris being the first black woman vice president, that's huge. Regardless of what you think about her politics, that's actually really cool because there are a lot of people out there who might not have thought that that was possible. There are a lot of younger people out there that are like, wow, you know, that person kind of looks like me. Maybe I could be vice president one day. And it's the same for Joe Biden. I mean, who knew that 90-year-old white men could also be... I'm just kidding. Anyway, it's very important, all right? It's just not a suitable substitute for systemic change. That's it. That's all.
But as for the edits, I understand them. And I think they're pretty neat. I think you should too. They're made with love. These ones aren't. Psych! See, this is why I've been with Naruto and Tenchi Muyo since day one. See this nigga? Me for real. See this nigga? Me for real. See this nigga Kazcon? Me for real on a stack, bruh. That's what I call representation, baby. Give me more of that, please. Also, a good amount of y'all thought these were fine, so we ain't gonna let that slide.
What the fuck is that? I'm sorry.
More of that, please. Also, a good amount of y'all thought these were fine.
What is this? I'm so confused. I don't know much about what's going on here, but I think the pivotal crime is that you're adding human, like, snippets, like screenshots onto animated characters. What the fuck?
And so we ain't gonna let that slide. I ain't forget that shit.
For clarification, I don't exactly care or are offended by these edits, but if you don't have a problem with these, but have a problem with these, that's a problem.
It's also, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, yeah, too. It's like an archetype, that like kind of like Yas Queen kind of vibe. I don't know how to explain it really, because I don't know enough about it, but I know what they're alluding to. And usually the people like depicted in that are Black, usually. The people like with the long nails, with the lips and the big hoop earrings, all this kind of shit, the lashes and all that, those people that are in the memes that are like actual people, not edits, are usually Black people. So putting these kinds of elements on white characters or light-skinned characters, a little strange.
If you don't have a problem with these, but have a problem with these, that's a problem in itself. Oh, let's use Black features for comedy, but when they want to do it for sincerity, there's a problem. Yeah, I ain't forget.
Another fucking banger. We'll have to watch more Veridis Joe. We've only watched one before, and now we've watched this one. Really fucking good. I'm subscribed. I need to see, so obviously I know Veridis Joe puts out more than just stuff as it pertains to race and all this kind of stuff. Of course, those are the only ones that I've watched. Of course, they're gonna be the most popular because it's a very interesting topic for people. We gotta watch more though. Good stuff. Gives me some inspiration for the video essay type stuff that I want to do too, as I was talking about earlier in the stream, which is neat. This video is kind of called as Tommy is dead. Congratulations, not sure how a dead person is able to participate in this goddamn randomly selected election. I think we gotta stop the count, brother man. But anyway, if you'd like to be the next Conure callout, all you gotta do, my friend, is follow me on Twitter, @ConureCC, retweet my gosh darn video links when they go live. Incredibly simple process, much like our election should be. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, put all notifications on when you do your target practice with that there bell, leave a like if you'd like, comment something in support of free and fair elections down below, and have yourself a absolutely splendid evening.